G'day, Ashley here. So at the time of shooting this video, spring's about 5 days away, although it's a little chilly today in Hobart. It might be hard to tell. And I've had quite a few people asking about what they can do exercise-wise. So what can they manage? What should they be doing? Usually around an issue that I'm seeing them for, or an injury that they might be carrying. But I thought I'd put some generic advice out there, as well as share some of my own personal goals to show that we're all human. We're all trying to work to improve ourselves a little bit. So a few months back, I put out a challenge for everyone to do 150 minutes minimum of walking every week, broken up however they liked. There was a good reason behind that. So we look at most health organisations around the world. They recommend a target of physical activity every week to maintain a certain level of health and well-being. They all come up with a very similar figure. So 150 minutes to 300 minutes of moderate activity, 75 minutes of vigorous activity, and at least 2 sessions of some sort of weight training or some sort of resistance training every week. That's a little bit of gobbledygook to some people. What is vigorous activity? What's moderate activity? That's what I want to spell out today, and what I'm personally doing to achieve some of those goals myself. So we define moderate activity as 3 to 6 METs, which is 3 to 6 times the natural background energy cost of you just sitting still and your body keeping yourself alive. That has a little energy cost, a background energy cost, and they define that as 1 MET. What does that mean to you? So vigorous activity is more than 6, moderate is 3 to 6. So moderate activity, we talk about a fast-paced walk. Too fast to really have a good conversation without needing that extra little breath of air occasionally, but you could maintain that conversation quite well and do that quite easily. Vigorous activity, you'd start to get a little breathless. You would find it quite hard to maintain that activity, that talking quite well. Things like faster cycling or jogging at about 10 k's an hour, so a good fast-paced jog would be your vigorous activity for about 10 minutes a day, every day of the week. So I'm aware some of that stuff is hard to measure. So what am I doing? So I'm not going to sit there with a stopwatch every day and calculate that stuff. Technology is a fantastic thing. I've gotten my smartwatch along with an app on the phone that links together, maps with GPS. I can map my calories on that as well. Very easy to fill out stuff. I'm using Samsung Health, which it gives me an idea of what I'm doing. There's probably paid apps that are more accurate, perhaps, if you really want to delve down into that. But it gives you a good idea of their calorie intake and maps how much energy you're expending during the day, puts it together and tells you how you're doing. So you can set weight goals on that, exercise goals, etc. Making sure you hit those targets gives you gentle little reminders. You can set how intrusive you want that to be. I don't want it to be too intrusive. But it gives you a lot of feedback as well. I mentioned those targets as well. Another way we defined moderate to vigorous activity is your heart rate. Or a percentage of your maximum heart rate. I won't go into how to calculate that. You can Google maximum heart rate and find those figures yourself. We talk about moderate activity being 50 to 70% of your maximal heart rate, and vigorous activity being 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. If you can hit those targets, again, this thing tells me. It tells me what I've done, how many minutes of vigorous activity, how many minutes of moderate activity I've done for the day. So it maps that for me and tells me. If you really want to get into it, you can get fancier things that will do that for you. I like the idea of using the heart rate monitor because the standard stuff we use, the 6 kilometre an hour walk or the 10 kilometre an hour jog for moderate or vigorous, it's going to be very different for an 85-year-old with a hip replacement compared to a 35-year-old marathon runner. So we need something that's individualized, and that's where the heart rate or percentage of heart rate maximum is a very good way to do that. You do need the tech to do that, obviously, but it's a fantastic way to individually measure that. So I'm going to be using that personally to ensure I hit those targets myself. That's my goal, just to hit those targets really. Ensure that I get that 150 to 300 minutes of moderate activity, 75 minutes of vigorous activity, and some sort of weights training during the week as well. And I'm going to measure that and ensure that I get that, and I'm happy with that. What can you do? Where should you start? I mean, this is a very personal question, obviously, but ensuring you get that 150 minutes of moderate activity is a good place to start. Ensure you can handle that. If you can, or you can start to increase the vigorous activity on the back end of that, if you find you can do that for a while. So if you started that challenge previously, the 150 minutes of moderate activity, good. Start to pick up the vigorous activity as well. If not, do the challenge. Do it for a month. See if you can do that every week and pick it up from there. If you can't manage that 150 minutes due to an injury or mobility issues, you may need some tailored advice around what you can and can't do. And we're happy to provide that usually. If it's a little above our pay grade, we do work closely with exercise physiologists and personal trainers to try and find a plan that will suit you and work for you and that can work on around some of those limitations. As always, the website's in the link description. Follow through there and ask for some advice if you can't manage that 150 minutes. Otherwise, try out the 150 minutes every week. Try and get that done. Try and break it up during the week if you can. But as long as it's 150 minutes per week, let me know in the comments how you go. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.